Welcome to the top of the world.
Hello and welcome. In the last video, probably not in order, but we made the base for the pontoon on the river, and I cut up some timbers on the sawmill to make the wooden inserts, and I cut more than I needed down there on the floor because I got to build a window for the cabin that we were working on last year that we moved at the end of the year before, whatever year that was, not this year. Anyway, it's end of winter and it's pissing with rain outside and it's horrible, and I've got that down there. From the old rotten cabin, we retrieved this, which is a very rotten sill from one of the windows, and it's going to give us our profile and what we need. So I'm oversized on this timber, so the first thing I'm going to do is cut up two side stiles and a head and a rail for the frame, so we've got the four sides of the frame. Then we're going to use the spindle moulder to take out all the necessary rebates we need. How this works is this is the outside sill, this is where the outside window sits, this is where the inside window sits, and this is the inside sill, which gives us two windows, which is double glazing because it's got two pieces of glass in it. Anyway, we're making it to match the cabin that's there, and I have, because I save everything, and where I've taken down a number of old cabins, saved all the windows and doors. So I've got old sashes to go in that will match what's already there. We just need to make up a basic frame, which is what we're going to do now. So I'm going to pick out my four best pieces of this, and we're going to saw them to the right width and plane them all the way around so that we've got the basic sizes. I think I've got to move the mower that's been sat there for a few months now, because obviously it's been winter. It is ready for a quick service. Check on the sharpness of the blades, ready to go out because the grass is starting to grow. But let's get our basic framing out first. 1, 2 mullions, and then 4 sections identically the same. So 2 stiles, a head and a rail of the frame. 4 frame sections, 2 mullions, they go between the windows. It's going to have 3 windows in it. So I've already got the sashes, the old sashes. So this is the original sill section. Seashells. So the first thing we're going to do is take out this rebate right the way across. And then the second thing we'll do is we'll take out this rebate. And then the last thing we'll do is take out this rebate. So I've set the spindle moulder up thus. And the reason for that being is the first pass is going to come through like this and take that entire section out. And what we do is we move the block down and we take out the smaller section at the bottom. Okay, that's the first pass through. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move the block down and in, and we're going to take out that. Okay, so this is the side we're working on. This is what we wanted to achieve. And this is what we've now got. Okay? So now what we need is that. So now we adjust the block from this to this, turn everything around, run it again. So what are we doing? We're building a period correct, 3-faceted, fully opening window for the cabin. The cabin we know is from the 1930s. I need 1930s period correct windows. Obviously you haven't just got them lying around, Simon. Here I have. Many, but not the frames. Just the sashes, because the frames are all rotten in the cabins and houses that I took them out of. Have I managed to make a set? Yeah? Period correct. Mercury, rolled glass, 3 panels. They're the internal sashes. And these are the external sashes. Period correct. As this gives us our height and our width of our frame with our mullions. So this is the outside rebate here. Our mullions, these sit on our frame there. These are for our outside sashes, and then we've got to measure the distance from there to the inside of the frame at the other end for our first sash, our one being on our right. Then we take the right correct measurement from the one in the middle, and we measure from that point there to where our next mullion is, right, and that gives us our middle sash. And then looking at those 3 over there, the left hand one, the measurement from there to the inside of the outer frame over there gives us our overall size of our 3 window sets. So now I've got a lot of faffing about to do, getting all these to be exactly right and sized so that I can determine what we're going to do here. What you don't want to do is lock into your frame size based on what you've got before you attempt to do any renovation or altering to the sashes, because if something turns out different, you've already committed to your frame. We don't want to do that. We want to get the two sets, the external and the internal sets of sashes ready, completed, to go into the frame before we cut the frame. Again, this is just prepped for paint. So since we're just prepping for paint, each sash has an hour or an hour and 15 minutes. Before I lay any paint on these sashes, I've got another 45 minutes to an hour. So we're going to be into each sash for 2 hours before we put any paint. Hour a coat, say 30 minutes aside, that's an hour a coat. Right? So you're going to be into 6 to 7 hours for each sash. And there's 6 of them. And we ain't even started on the frame. That's just the sashes. We've removed all the ironmongery. You could put ironmongery on. And when you start getting into it, suddenly you're 70 hours, 80 hours into one window and frame in order to restore it like this. And some of it looks messy. Worry not. It all cleans up and gets to look perfect. Okay, so before I do any more work on these outer sashes, I want to put the frame together. And the outer sash size is going to completely dictate the size and how the frame is put together. So what I've done is I've marked up the mullions, but I've just cut them off to their outer length. So I put the centre sash, which is the fixed sash, in the middle. And then what I've done is I've marked up my centre lines for my transoms, based on them being upside down. Okay? So I know where the centre mortise has got to go, and we'll mark whereabouts that's got to go. We're going to cut the tenon on this side, so I've marked them up with the profile of the frame. Okay. So that's the tenons on these, and whilst I have to clear this bit up, the face part of the tenon would actually be the face part of the frame here. Any guesses as to which plank? Forgot to turn the camera on. Well, it's just me, so must have been me then. Okay, I've just got to wedge up the joints now. That's square. This is not square. The sash, the frame is square and the sash is in the frame, and now it's screwed off. So that's our fixed panel. And I did explain just a few moments ago probably why I'm doing it like this as opposed to making the frame, because everything is different. Okay, so now I've just got to fit the end sashes in loose, and then I can put the two end stiles on, take the sashes out because I've got to get hinges for those. But I just want to get all these joints fixed off and glued up. We've got to move this sash over a little bit and make sure the spacing's good down there before we think about putting our stiles on, and we're too tight on the bottom and on the top, and that sash is quite clearly out of square, as is that one, and they're out of square in the same way. So we'll just ease a bit off this half here. Well, firstly we need to make sure these are not bowed at the ends, because that's tight on the bottom there. This one's not tight on the bottom there. So what we've got to do is make sure the inner part of this sill and that head is the same distance as here, just in case the ends have bowed in a bit just before we start messing with the sashes. So that's my next job. Measure, sand the two stiles, and then fit those so that the frame is the same size. Okay, so I've turned the frame over, and now we've fitted in the internal sashes. This is the double glazing. Now I haven't, done anything with these sashes yet. These need rubbing down, ready for paint and the glass cleaner. So there's our left and right openers. And then the idea behind these is these will be on hinges here. Right, and the middle one will be fixed. And the idea is you can, if, say, for example, you were in residence permanently, you would remove these during the summer, although a lot of people didn't, because that's the second coat on there. We have early this morning been to town, taken the Audi down, got a final approval for registration, not safety inspection. I've got to talk about that on another video. Right, so whilst I was in town, I got my new hinges, but as suspected, and I've been here before, because you can't use the same hinges, when you take the hinges out, you're left with this horrible hole that's also not the right size or necessarily anything about it. So because of the width of these, I had to get a slightly smaller sash. Well, when you when you put these hinges in here, right, they don't even fit the hole. So the easiest way is just to blank these off, right, and then put the hinges further up or even in the same place once all this has gone off. And the easiest way to do that is to insert an oversized block, glue it in place. So you take a piece of wood like this, which is way too big, and then you glue it in and insert it like that, and then you clean it up to the right size. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have to do that to these two sashes, which are the outside ones, and those two, which are the inside ones. And then once the blocks have gone off, we can plane it down and sand it, and you won't know I've done it. Anyway. You're cutting in with your left hand, Simon. Yep. Remember me saying on many occasions about the storms coming from the south? There ain't much good comes from the south. All right. Well, we got to go and bail that out. All it did was rain yesterday. Am I going to risk taking you out with me? No. I wouldn't give you all the satisfaction of the laugh of the phone going to the bottom again. The difference about the phone going to the bottom of the river here and over there Right, it's about 10 feet. Anyway, it rained a lot overnight and it's going to rain a lot more today, so we're just going to go and bail out what's in that. Yeah, good test, I suppose. I haven't just put it out. Yeah, that didn't take a minute or two to bail that out. It doesn't mean much to me because I'm used to being on the sea, but I'm also not used to being in such a small boat. Anyway, with such an underpowered engine, so you can be in a small boat if you've got an engine that's powerful enough to push the boat, but being in a small boat with a small engine, sometimes when the wind's blowing we can't get down or up. We can now because we've got a bigger engine. Anyway, back then. Oh yeah, he just pissed on himself. What an idiot. You're not supposed to piss into the wind, bud. Right, let's go and find something to do inside. So this is what it looks like pre-cleaning, and then that is what it looks like cleaned. So these have had to sit now. So the arduous part of this is each one of these has had an undercoat and then 2 top coats. They all need a 3rd top coat really, and you have to wait 24 hours between coats, and then when you turn them over you can't lay them on the paint. So you have to put blocks under the glass, obviously not in the centre of the glass, so that you can turn them over and paint. And then once the last coat is on, you have to wait another 48 hours. So it's 5 days of painting for these, right? And there's nothing I can do about it. That's what it is. And then you're into 6 days because now you've got to clean all of them up, clean all the glass, fit the hinges where they are and put them in there. So it takes a day to make the frame. And then roughly, because I'm waiting for things to dry and blah, 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 you another 7 to 8 days just to assemble the window frame. And then we've got a day fitting, and we haven't made the trims yet because I'm doing lots of other things. Whilst I'm waiting for this, then I have to go and do something else. But whilst this lot is laid out in the shop, obviously you can't do nothing. So I haven't made the trims for the frame because I can't, because I've got all these sashes laid out and you don't want to create the dust and the dirt. So each one of these I'm going to clean up. So you take all the little, paint bits off. The glass, these have been sat for 10 years since I've had them. They probably haven't been in a building. Oh no, I took them out. Oh yeah, I took them out of a building 10 years ago, and then that building was probably unoccupied for 20 years prior to that, 30 years, who knows. So they haven't been cleaned in a very, very long time. So I'm going to carry on fitting these 2 hinges. This sash laid here, that's for that hole. I've got a few hours this morning. The rain, the rain, the rain. Okay. I don't know what date we are. 10th, 11th, 12th of June, I don't know. Anyway, that board covers the hole that's way too small for the window, and everything I need I think is in the van, and I've probably got 4 hours before the storms are going to hit again. So as you can see, we're right underneath the roof there. I don't need to be working there. So I'm going to measure up the hole, edge it with trim for the chainsaw as a guide, and then cut the right size hole for the window. chain was, I put that chain on there because I just knew. Anyway, so now I've just cut through those nails and I've just got a bottom on this, but I'll change the blade now because I'm quite sure there's no metal in that bottom one. I lost count of how many chains we've lost on this cabin. Now, I know what some of you were thinking. Well, Simon, that window is too big for that cabin. Well, here's the thing. Firstly, it's in proportion. So proportions are very important to how a building looks. And secondly, I know what the potential use of this building, its purpose, right? So it's very dark, this cabin, because the windows are very small and there's a lot of wood. However, if there was an area of the building that was to be used for craft or hobby or sitting at the table enjoying coffee, you don't really want to look at that, right? You don't. So, you never really know until you know. Okay? Look at the light that is bringing in. It's like a studio window. It's a vast amount of light. So they were my options, right? Another one of those. And that seemed, if you were going to have a table where you were doing arts and crafts, that's where you would put it, right in front of that window. So there is a door and window combination going in there, but quite what that's going to be like, I don't know, because I'm not in charge of making that. So we don't know. But what I do know was I deliberated over the size and then the length of the building and the position and then the height, and yeah, knowing what the proposed use for this room is, that's what I decided on. So there we go. I actually think that is a vast improvement on the inside, and as far as I'm aware, these walls are not being lined, they're being filled and painted with clay. Right, and then to this we're fitting antique stock original window locks. So I put these in here, and these are on a screw, so you can twist them and they screw in and out for adjustment, and then they go over these, which are like shaped, and they drop over, and then as you pull them down they push back against that and tighten the window. Are we using traditional flathead antique screws? No, definitely not. Right, that's a bit loose. So then what I do is I give it half a revolution. Try that. No, another half a revolution. So we're screwing it into There we go. And that. Oh yes. Look at that. Sealed. Right, put the bottom one on. There we go. And that pulls up tight on that rubber. That's another one done. Okay. Now we've got to do the internals, but before we do the internals, we're going to go back outside and finish off the trimming and the stuffing because the storm's coming, right? So now we're dried and sealed, we can leave what we need in here and go outside and fit the trims. All right, that was a bit of a stress. Really? Okay, that's trimmed, sealed, corked, painted. And I'll show you why I didn't film that. Firstly, it's just a bit of trimming. I was in a rush to get the outside finished. I know it's coming. Right, that's the outside finished. And the sashes are both hung and they got their locks on. We're going to move the van now into the inside because we're going to be doing the rest of the work through the side door. And we'll shut that window up and then hopefully that paint has enough time to cure a bit that the rain won't affect it because it's not going to hit it directly. Okay, that's the two inners swinging, and what I've got to do now is work out how much room I've got for this middle one and adjust it accordingly. So I didn't fit these back at the factory because I wanted to do it like this. Oh, I don't know how you do that, Simon, but I'm glad you do. I don't know how I do that. I don't know. It's just there. It's just there. Right. Okay, maybe I haven't got to do any adjusting then. Maybe I'll just screw this one in and we're good. Right, good job. Okay, I've decided I'm not going to trim it because nothing's quite flush on the inside and I know this has got to have a coating on it of some description, so I might have to build something out at a later date depending on what this is going to look like. So if I go and do something now, chances are it's got to come off. So yeah, I've stuffed it where it needs stuffing. I've got to just pop these two bits on which I forgot to take off the other windows. That's it done. That's old school 1930s, 1940s double glazing. With all the right ironmongery on it, all the right hooks and hinges. And these open up this way. And then you undo that one. And you undo that one, and they open up that way, and you've got this just delightful huge window. I like it a lot. Oh, it smells of paint. I wonder why that is. We'll go and take a look from outside. They all lock and squeeze onto the rubbers, so the outer windows are sealed, and then that shuts up like that, and they will lock off there. Alright, let's take you outside. We've got calm before the storm. I really like that. Okay, there's obviously no stairs here because I've been told I'm not doing that either. Big mistake in my opinion. I'll tell you why. Because that lends itself to a corner set of steps. I've done a few of those. There we go. Trimmed, painted, bit of sunshine, finish it off. That's done. It's a good job. I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah, I do like it a lot. Okay, that's all I've got for you today. Thank you all for watching. Really appreciate it. Bye for now.